Good morning, people. Not sure if you can hear me. We're having some technical difficulties. This is as organic as it's going to get and going to be. Um, Apologies for those of you who've been waiting for almost a half an hour now. Can't make these things up, people. Um, we have to deal with that energy anyway, right? It can't be a constant, can't be accepted as the norm. We have work to do. Yeah, people, I'm grateful here. This is Russ. This is WSTX 970 AM. It's another opportunity, another day to be on this side of Earth, this side of the planet. And again, we choose to speak on things that we're doing something about. And at best, if not, we know that someone else is doing something. And when we say do, we mean doing the right things. Um, Again, there's lots that we can talk about in the territory. Um, and the time of getting more concrete conversation. I make that comment simply because we are in the hypocritical season, the political season where lies is the norm, whether people want to accept and believe in the fact that lies are not part of it, of this political season. What are the lies that you're willing to accept that a politician is going to tell you, and you knowing that it's a lie? What are those lies that you're going to accept from a politician, um, given the nature of the beast? And that should give you an idea of what you're willing to put up with and what you're not willing to put up with. But most of all, it tells you what changes it needs to be done in the territory. What are you comfortable with? Because they're going to tell you lies. Whether they believe their own lies or not, that's a different thing. Whether it's intentional or not, that's also questionable, right? But in this political season where the slogans and now you start seeing um, word phrases and themes, uh, and you hear people addressing what they're going to do and what they stand for and what they're hoping to bring about in change, right? But you can tell what changes are going to be had simply by the way the politicians are conducting themselves, the way they're formatting their campaigns, tell you whether or not we're going to have change. And we are going to have change, right? People are going to eventually leave the office and other people are going to fill it. We're going to have that change. But as a people in a territory that they are quick to call insula, and not insula from a positive perspective. It's mostly the negative meanings that they would apply insular to. And when we, as a people, are failing, and as adults in 2026, to use our intelligence, to access our intelligence with integrity, we're going to fall into years and years of the same. And politics is conducting itself as usual. Again, going back to the way they're going to run campaigns, they're going to ask to solicit for funds for support. There's going to be support that's going to be given in terms of monies, and it's questionable who and where they're getting the monies from. Um, on a politics as usual, um, or in a politics as usual arena, but it doesn't make sense to question who, why, and where they get the monies from. Question their integrity, question their character, question their personality. Once you do that, you don't have to worry about who's going to take monies from whom and how they're going to take monies and under what circumstances, because politics as usual, and at the time, the season of lies, they're soliciting for funds. They're asking people to support. And you don't ask people for something without owing on any level. So even the people who are supporting these candidates, they're expecting something in return. And some of them are not expecting that the candidates they're supporting is going to go and change things that they want. They're expecting something a little bit more tangible, right? They want a little job. They want somebody in the family to be rewarded with something. And as politicians, and you have supporters, politics as usual will make you want to repay those who were supporting you during your election, right? And different individuals have different personalities and characters, so they would do these things in various stages and in various forms. How they're going to repay individuals who have been supporting them and their candidacy if they should succeed. So when we are practicing in a territory politics as usual, it simply means that we don't want real change. Real change, 95%, 90% of the people don't really want real change. They want assimilated change. They want adaptive change. They don't want change. So while you're seeking to change the candidates that are in these offices that you're dissatisfied with, their performance, their behavior, their work ethics, while you're complaining and you don't like it, you're asking for somebody to change their character and their personalities that they otherwise can't and wouldn't change it. And before any individuals design or have designs actually to fill any of those political offices, any of those government offices, before they get in there, they already have a character and a personality. And majority of it is not going to be made known to the general people, right? People generally are not going to know. Some people are going to know what the hidden secrets are, what skeletons they have in their closets. They're not going to come and talk about anything other than something that's evident. If not, they're not going to talk about it. And if we don't change our mindset, if you don't change spiritually where you are to correct the moral fiber in the territory, we're going to be met with years of the same. 60 years. If you ask the adults in the territory, not the children, if you ask the adults in the territory what events, what documents, what laws affect them in the past 60 years, they wouldn't be able to tell you. And there's a reason for it. That's by design, right? So it's only a willing spirit would have walked to have gotten this information, because you're not waiting for anyone to give it to you. So all that being said, We're here in this political season where, again, I mean, dishonesty and these false alliances that are being formed and lie. It's amazing to watch one person tell a lie to another person tell a lie to the next person, and they both believe in their lies and they both know that they're lying to each other, but they're still communicating and they still have an agenda. And they're trying to couple that. But it's not too long. You have to keep that facade going. That fake. You have to keep it up. At some particular point, it must end the faking, right? And you're seeing that happening right now. And the level of hypocrisy in this political arena, in the institute of politics anyway, can't be had when we are practicing politics as usual. And until your politics can't change if your mindset don't change. Your politics can't change if your spirit hasn't changed. But we're complaining about the things that's obvious in the territory, right? Speaking and complaining about the obvious. So people, um, it's the time, again, the season for lies and deception and the whole 9 yards, and people out there campaigning from morning, people who just want to make sure that they get a job, keep a job, advocating for um, some personal um, issues to be addressed by quote unquote, or hopefully this new aspirant who may get in. So all these things are being had, and at the same time, while people are agitating and advocating for registering to vote and voting registration and voting drives because everybody's going to vote because the vote is going to make the change, and we need more people because um, without voting, we won't get the changes that we need. So therefore, they're thinking a registration drive and voters registration is what's going to change the system. And they're advocating, and that's so civil rights, that's so early 1900, what they're advocating for, and they can't see it because they don't know any other route, right? So they will try and justify that the only way change is going to come in the territory is by voting because you have to vote people into those offices, right? So that's the only way it's going to be done, according to them. Not having full understanding of what the basic civics is in the territory, and couple that with the civics and the involvement with the United States of America and the United States, we tend to be that product that racist judge referenced the insular cases on, to be insular, not coming from islands, but to be lacking the aptitude, the intelligence to understand their language. And we are here in 2026 when we have an unlawful territory, and the colonizer, being the United States, is aware of the corrupt and the incompetency because that's part of the tool of the colonizer. And that's how he satisfies himself, by feeding that to the neo-colonialist. So the neo-colonialist is going to do everything that the colonizer is asking for on automatic. So it doesn't matter what color skin you have. It's your spirit. Now, if you look at the territory, you see what it's made up from. You see who's imposing these unnecessary hardships. But we can't change that, no matter how you try to complain, because you're still a colony. And you're going to argue what you need to get done. And people are going to feel that they're accomplished because the colonizer left a format and left seats for people to find just to fill, and they're coming up, these descendants and ascendants of the former enslaved, they're filling these seats and they think that they have a sense of accomplishment because now they think that they're running themselves, uh, and not the colonizer. And the colonizer is coming from a system of imperialism, um, and a very aggressive one at that, and a very terroristic one at that. And because you're benefiting from the imperialistic approach, the ideology and the philosophy, you don't seem to think that it's going to affect you. Well, if it's one thing for certain, is that there is no honor among thieves and murderers. So as time progresses, um, we're left out of knowing that there's a battle in the US between the Satanists and the Luciferians, right? Sometimes they disguise themselves under these political parties, Democrat, Republicans. And the shifting is done because the Constitution is the question. And many people who are claiming to know what the Constitution is and has in it, many of them, uh, in all honest, they don't know it. They don't know this. They don't know the subject, I should say, even when they call themselves constitutional scholars. Um, and that's all right because comprehension is a God-given gift. It's not manufactured in any institute of learning. We are expecting a change based on the fact that the territory is suffering by design, structurally done by elements that was put in place by a colonizer. And the only change that they're seeking is to remove who's sitting in the seats of the colonizer left so that they could fill the seats so they can bring about a change that is a privilege given to you by the colonizer. And trying to move through these effects and the merits of what that presents, we're complaining about our infrastructure, to include the schools and the hospitals and everything. And we haven't not realized the reasons why that can be done is simply because we are a colony. Whether you see it as just or unjust, right or wrong, you're arguing that point from a perspective of a colonist. And we are here now in the season of voting, and people don't know any better. And those who honestly believe that they're going to bring change from a vote, well, I would challenge you on this subject. If you had 500 voters and you couldn't correct the system with 500, explain how you're going to change the system with an additional 5,000 or 10,000. How are you going to change it? Because the bedrock of where you're pulling from is carrying the same agenda, the same mindset. And the answer could never be in how much votes and how many additional person you get to register to change your cause. The answer always have to be in who is running systems. And if you think that voting somebody to correct the system is going to work, it's going to work for a certain amount of people, for a certain amount of time. And at the end of the day, you're still not making choices for yourself because at best, you are living under a privilege and you think it is a right. We are actually accepting the fact that Congress has a right to do pretty much what they want to, according to what status we have right now, whether we choose to believe it or not, with the absence of those of us who know and will challenge it internationally. But you're here swearing that you have a privilege because you're able to participate in the events that the colonizer designed that left for you to fail. And people are, these are accomplishments for some people, some big accomplishments. These are things that people are going to write home about. And a lot of people's home is not, even though they're going to live and die in the Virgin Islands, they don't consider the Virgin Islands their home. So where is that loyalty going to? Where is that interest going to? You can't fool everybody all the time. We have a problem in the territory. We have people traveling from various parts of the world coming into the territory, but we don't have nationalism, so they'll use it to the benefit of whatever they want to accomplish, whatever is on their agenda, whatever is on their itinerary for that particular period of time. But we need real change. And real change is not going to be had with politics as usual, the way they're doing things. And again, if you want to see what's going to happen, look at how they're conducting their campaign. Who and how. And that tells you what kind of change we're going to have and not have, because so far, no one has pretty much changed the format in how campaigns are being done. They're all following the same format in various different ways, but it's very same basic format. And when you're working in a culture that's vindictive and malicious, and the people are waiting to always be, majority of the time, generally speaking, they're waiting to be given things or to be taught or given, we're going to always be one step behind of the colonizer, simply because the neocolonialists can't change their mindset. They refuse to. They don't want to accept the fact that they have a God-given right, and that God-given right is not to explain or to apologize to anybody when it comes to freedom of life. I should say liberty in life, free. And somehow they really can't get that in their spirit. So it's always limited as to how much free, quote unquote, movement they have under that system, under this system. And it's going to be marginalized and explained based on that, but never the full right, never the full God-given right to be free. They'll argue it up until whatever rules and laws of the state that they're living under, which has happened to be the United States, they're limited to that and nothing else. So in 2026, when people are still advocating for civil rights and voting rights, and they're thinking that these things, because they see the word right, R-I-G-H-T, that it is a right from the perspective of the innate gift given to you by the Almighty God. It is not. The word right in that term simply means a privilege. And if you want to argue the case, do not argue the case unless you have done the research and done the searches and work and read competently how the laws are structured and who chooses to interpret. And this whole process of people giving interpretation and people giving opinions, the whole judicial system now is waiting for an opinion, and they've accepted that over the years, an opinion from a judge. And judges are not supposed to give opinion; they're supposed to state the facts and present the law as written. You see, and we're getting into all of this trash, and the trash has to be removed. But before you could clear it, people just keep on dumping trash, and it's hard to explain to people when they have a spirit, they have a defeatist spirit. And when you look around right now, what seems to be a hot topic, or they're trying to make it a hot topic, is the container port on the South Shore and the transshipment port on the South Shore that they've been trying to, again, push under our nose and to make St. Croix suffer again. The only thing that they can think to bring relief to the territory are all the elements necessary to put the Virgin Islands into receivership. And they're doing everything possible. They're checking all the dotting all the I's and checking all the boxes that they've been given to do. And the current administration right now, with under Bryant and Roach, has been anything but short of fulfilling all the elements to put the territory into receivership. And their receipts proves it. Um, and everyone is talking uh, that I've heard so far. I waste my life listening to some of those stuff. Um, they're still advocating for changes that's not going to bring any real support when it comes to preparing our children for what that future looks like, for what that world looks like. Because at best, they just want things in the territory to get jobs. You know, jobs, just like civil rights, just like voting rights, that's all yesterday. That's all, we don't want jobs, we want careers, right? So to make sure that our children are decently learned and equipped, that they can establish careers. You want to bring in an industry that's going to promote jobs. They brought out how many industries that they brought in here into the territory, and how many jobs with the amount of monies that they were able to leverage. Doesn't make any sense. So we don't want to fall into where nothing is being done other than explaining or exposing what is being done. Because then we're faulted for not doing what we're supposed to do. Um, and in this season, right, this is some people love it. They love the hypocrisy. They love the challenge of, structuring their lies and their seats and their deceits, I should say. Um, smart, outsmarting the other camp, the other individuals. It's a sport for them. They love it. Um, the whole theatrics, the theater mode, the gossip mode, the insincerity of how they're structuring their lives and how they're being presented. And all of this is being done so that the positions in government are filled, and they're all majority of them are doing it without the necessary mindset to affect the changes that the territory really needs. Um, and that plays into the hand of the colonizer, because some people just don't know any better. They can't think any better. You put a chain around your neck and they'll make an excuse for it and smile right this minute if you do it. And they're doing that right now. And you have individuals, take for instance the Francis Roach ticket. Um, it's going to be an interesting year simply because the individual who is running for the lieutenant governor on that ticket, we're going to find out when people used words like integrity. I am going to make sure that the receipts for integrity that they use are there. Um, and the Roach Francis team, if you look at the history of the current senator on issues, this person just loves rezoning properties. The other one has not addressed, even though he's sitting in the office right now, the issue of the taxes on homes in the territories. Have not even make any effort to clarify the fact that many of the properties that's quote unquote in probate doesn't necessarily have to be there, because the receipts are proving that they don't have to be there. But if you want a sealed property, that's where you keep them, and that's where you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor, who wants to be governor, has failed the people. Because unless I don't see the receipts, and I don't know, so maybe you did, right? So maybe somebody will produce the receipts to show that you've done these things, and you haven't. Maybe you did in your capacity, right? But people wants to be governor. Um, we talk about integrity. As a matter of fact, it's and condolence to the family of the police officer who lost his life. Um, and it's with that same interest the police department comes out and the governor makes a speech, and everyone who made comment on that and participated on the level due to the officer losing his life, we would ask them to extend that very same interest in the case of a police officer who lost, or I should say, an employee of the police department who lost her life in the evidence room, not in a neighborhood street, but questionable because they haven't said anything relative to who, right? Comprehensively, anyway. But this event took place in the police station itself. We're talking about the case of Shakira Gautier. And you see all this energy and the motorcade, respectfully, that's understandable, that's good. And you see all of these energies, and you know that for a fact that there are people who were involved in the last 16 years of this, and they have not brought anything to the table on it. We want to know what integrity looks like and what people who accept the rule of law and have an honest heart and head looks like. Now, when Shakira Gautier's case, when she was actually alive and employed in that department, it just so happened that the commissioner then was Mr. Novell Francis. So if you look at the merits of what that case is lacking and needs from the official who was there, you want to question exactly what integrity looks like and what honesty looks like in a territory where even a crime this particular individual was involved in can never be brought by the department where it occurred. So how are we going to now have confidence that these individuals are going to do the right thing? And it's no exception on them because the other candidates have a history of being a pathological liar. Like, all of them lied anyway. And how do you now, as a body of people going to register to vote and going to vote for these individuals, how are you going to make a distinction unless you're lying to yourself and unless you're lacking information and unless you're part of that defeatist mentality where you can't even change them? Because the fact remains that they know that a lot of people are not going to change no matter what you do. They're going to stay deaf, dumb, and blind. That's an acceptable statement, right? But what are they going to do when all you're getting are people who have questionable records and receipts, fact verifiable? I listened to Ms. Blaskett says a couple of things about Whistling Key and a couple of accusations she made against the Roach and the Francis administration, rightfully so. But what is her participation? Because she said that they voted on the swap and the exchange and nothing has been built and nothing has been, but the person who was pretty much behind that was Mr. Bloomberg himself, who donated to her cause. And anybody could accept donations. Everybody does that, solicit for campaign funds and support. People do these things. And the problem with that is that, and rightfully to question everything that she did and how it was done. But this is a known fact that many of the critics, that's the problem we have in the territory. Many of the critics have the characteristics and the personality equal to hers, which means that and John DeYoung and Cecil DeYoung and White and the Francis, the other AG at the time, and whoever I'm forgetting to mention right now, they have pretty much similar characteristics and personalities of these individuals. So what were you going to do, or what are you going to do that's different, other than the fact that the Epstein issue has come from out of the closet to be in the light and in your face telling people here sitting on this planet
Top of
that
the hour.
they can't do anything about it. What are you going to do about it? Because it is evident that people honestly will look for funding from anyone and then justify it on the other end because you're going to be questioning campaign funds. I said that we have a call, Jen.
No, but you have top of the hour.
Okay, people, we'll be back in a few minutes.
Stand up for the law. Stand up for decency. Stand up for compassion. Stand up for respect. Stand up for your community. Stand up for your future. Stand up for the Virgin Islands. WSTX FM 100, the soul of the Caribbean.
This is Donna Fred Gregory, your Democratic candidate for governor. Small businesses in the territory are being squeezed by subcontractor agreements that delay their payments until the prime contractor is paid. This policy creates an undue hardship and strain on our local business and our economy. We commit to partner with our business community to build fair solutions and expedite payment because small businesses are the backbone of this community. Enough is enough. Time for results. On August 1st, vote Donna Gregory for governor and Rodney Moorhead for lieutenant governor.
What you think about Ghana?
Paid for by BI Now for DFG.
Starting to feel the heat? Caribbean Cooling is your trusted oasis for all things air conditioning on St. Croix. With a forecast predicting a sizzling summer and an active hurricane season ahead, it's time to prepare. But don't wait until it's too late. At Caribbean Cooling, we've got you covered with top-notch AC brands like Reedy, Mitsubishi, Drain. Whether it's chilling at home or staying productive at work, our units will keep you cool through the hottest days and the stormiest nights. Caribbean Cooling is licensed and insured and offers maintenance for all air conditioners. When was the last time you had your air conditioner serviced or had it inspected? Please call to schedule your complimentary estimate today. Visit us today at our location in Peters Rest, right across from Cost You Less. When it comes to staying comfortable, we're the coolest choice in town. Caribbean Cooling. We make sure you keep cool. Call us today, 340-773-2126.
This is Clifford A. Joseph Sr. asking for your continued support and vote on election day. Indeed, unprecedented times, the Virgin Islands need focused, tempered, and creative leadership, committed to serving and providing practical solutions. During my first term in office, I have been successful in enacting Act number 8991, legislation that closes a tax loophole that would generate an estimated $1 billion. I repeat, $1 billion in gross receipt tax revenue during the disaster recovery rebuild. This measure not only shores up our economy, it balances the playing field between local and off-island contractors, ensuring fairness for all. On election day, I am humbly asking for your vote for focused leadership with a commitment to serve. Vote Clifford A. Joseph, number 2, paid for by the committee to elect Clifford A. Joseph to the Senate.
James Landscape. We do tree trimming, debris removal, small and large lot clearance, commercial and residential yard maintenance, all at reasonable rates.
Call Jason for Jay's Landscape, 473-8586. Estimates available. No job too big or too small.
As a veteran, I have extraordinary admiration and respect for those who dedicate their lives to public service. service to the communities and to our territory. At the same time, we must recognize that our politics, our government, and our institutions have too often failed us, the people, culminating in this moment of crisis. Healthcare, water, infrastructure, schools. As we look ahead, we must be willing to pursue change through different methods and different thinking, committed to our same values and principles, all while offering practical solutions as we manage our future for effective governance. I know Kurt Bailey will fight fearlessly for our island and for this territory. He believes in the betterment of our people, fairness and dignity of all. Vote to re-elect Senator Kurt Bailey to remain in the fight for all of us. Early voting takes place on July 20th to the 29th, and primary election is on August 1st. Vote number 5, Kurt Bailey.
Paid for by Friends of Kurt BLA to the Senate. AM 970, WSTX, Christiansted, Frederickstead, and the Virgin Islands.
Ready.
Yeah, people, we're back. Let's see how the territory is going to make out in the next from now until the end of the year, because it's only a delay for now, in that the United States was planning to come into the territory to qualify it, right? Which means that we're going to check documentations, and somehow make sure that they were legitimate, right? So they got sidetracked. The events, leading up in Gaza, and stuff that was flaring up in the UAE, and things that was flaming up in Yemen, and other stuff in the West Bank, and they got kind of distracted in what they were doing to some degree, and that took their focus off of making here again a spotlight, or a victim of. And with the recent events, with what they're able to do in Venezuela and with Cuba, they're occupied. They have something else to fill the time with. But believe me, when all of that is done, if the current president is still there, he's still coming to qualify the population, which means that they're coming to check all the statuses, whichever way they can do it. And they know that there's a difference between a privilege and there's a difference between a right. And that's all the Trump administration has been doing, testing, where the people are on the knowledge of what the Constitution allows and what it doesn't allow, what the laws allow from what they don't allow. And those around President Trump, there's a group that does know what the laws are and how and where the processing of the articles of the Constitution are when it comes to the territories. So they're playing that to their advantage, because at best, all we're doing is being distracted by a system that was designed to control the people. I shouldn't say designed, it was taken over and wired that way in the voting system. And we're so caught up in that I should say we have individuals who think they have a sense of entitlement to no one to represent, that don't know a goddamn thing other than the fact that they said they have a sense of entitlement and they jumped through this window to achieve it. They slept on that bed to do it. So they think they have a sense of entitlement to even go before the people to speak on things that they don't know. So when this is occurring and you look at the things that the territory is falling short of in 2026, when there's billions of dollars all around the Virgin Islands, and it looks worse, like someone said, worse than a third world country, right? If you want to call them third world countries. But look at how, and you explain it, because you can't explain it. It's nothing to explain. It's right before you. These are neocolonialists carrying out the biddings of the colonizer. This is what the colonizer wants the people in the colony to suffer and to live with, right? These kind of uh, distractions, if you want to call it that, at best. And while we're doing this, and and people figure that they, because of the blood, sweat, and tears, that they've accomplished things under this status back and forth, they think the status is good, and they're scared now to live the life that the Almighty God of righteousness provided for you to live freely, to not have anyone uh, deny you of it. And that's what's being had. But you're accustomed to doing it all the years. You've become comfortable with it. You've achieved things. You're settling. So you don't know anything else because your spirit is not going to allow it. Some of us have spirit that's going to allow us to see these things no matter what you say, no matter what you like, without apologies, right? So we're doing these things and life is happening and people don't want to change. I was going to say we, people don't want to change. They don't want to change how they do things because they're again comfortable. They don't know any better. Some of us have smartphones but don't use it in a smart way. We're not learning anything. You're waiting for someone to come and speak things that you don't know and use words that you don't know and word phrases that you don't know, and automatically they have done the study to know that that's what you're waiting for and that's what you follow because somehow you don't believe that you're intelligent enough to be in those positions. But I know differently, and we have work to do. We have to learn our people. Um, the opportunity to have gotten a learned body from 2004 to 2000 now, that opportunity was lost because there isn't a teaching mechanism apart from expecting for that to be done in a school. And when those who are politicking now, you could try now, but it's too late because you would have had to have the receipts to show that you were doing it since 2024, sitting before the people, learning the people what they needed to learn, um, outside of the cookie cutter, check this box off, that I cross that T mentality and learning. So now the people now are left with what? The same routine, politics as usual, campaigning, slogan, signs, food, this and that, all kind of nonsense back. And you, the people, right now, if you're going to complain that we have foolish, dishonest, or incompetent people in offices, you could only be talking about yourself. It's as simple as that. You, the governor, you're complaining about yourself. You're complaining about the assistant governor, everybody in those offices, you're complaining about yourself. And if you're not complaining about yourself, then there's certain things that you would not be participating in. We need change. We need better governance. And governance is something that there's in people's mouth now because they were listening when it was explained to them what governance looks like on a previous shows by an individual. So everybody now listen to these little click words. They need governance. They're using words like integrity back and forth, and they have no shame. They don't have the receipts for it, right? So how are we as a people now going to benefit from that kind of mentality? We're not going to benefit. Yes, we need change. Better must come. But it's not going to be as politics as usual, where lies is going to be accepted. One person lying to the next, another person, or the person is lying to them, coming forward. What? It's not going to produce anything other than the same mediocre results that we've been getting for the past 50, 60 years, no matter who gets in that seat, unless certain items are addressed. And if we're not willing to shut the government down, because it has to, and if we're not able to shut our government down, that's when the colonizer is going to smile because they put in all the elements to make sure that the territory runs incompetently. That's what a colonizer would need so that the colony could depend on the colonizer for guidance and for better judgment and better government and governance. This is what tool that the colonizer does. It uses people like the neocolonialists who are there. It uses your own to suppress you. And that's exactly what they're doing now. They're suppressing you. Believe it or not. People come up and bring and tell them facts and truth, and it goes in one ear and it comes out not the other ear, it comes out the lower the busy part. But how are we going to change that when we're teaching our children to do that and think the same way? And we can't do and think the same way if we want change, people. Our government has to be shut down. Accounts have to be frozen. All those credit cards that can't be accounted for, all those accounts that has not been accounted for, all those ghost accounts that's been sitting around, you know, and it's moving between only certain people who know about it, so they leave it until and then they're feeding among themselves. These things are existing right now. They're making things so difficult that the average person who otherwise wouldn't have an inclination to pick up something is picking things up because life is so difficult. I guess we're not questioning who's bringing in our foods, what type of foods they're bringing in, what kind of privileges and how they're controlling things, and the people who are bringing in the foods in the territory, which is 90%, they just established themselves probably in the last 60 years also. And they're not a voting bloc. They don't vote. They haven't registered to vote. But guess what? Everyone who's doing this going for them for funding and support. So you keep on pushing the narrative. The narrative of voting and registration applies for a particular mindset and a particular status that we haven't been able to be apprised of because we don't have the time to. If I do it here on this show with you, I'm speaking to adults. I would love to be able to reason and give this information to students.
You have a call.
Agree? Thank you. Good morning, caller. Thank you for calling.
Yes, good morning, Brother Russ. Am I on the air right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay, see, Brother Russ, it's interesting because you brought up the situation, the tragedy that happened last week with the officer that was murdered, as the newspaper saying is ambush. That tragedy that happened, the amount of dedication that the VA government is giving to this tragedy is very honorable in some way, some shape or form. But the problem is that a situation that happened 16 years ago involving Shakira Gautier wasn't given this level of attention by the VA government. And just like you said earlier, right, a certain individual running for lieutenant governor was a former police commissioner at the time. The individual, I'm going to say the individual who's running with Roach, Lieutenant Governor Roach, was the commissioner at the time involving the death of Shakira Gautier in the police evidence room. This level of attention was never given to her murder by nobody in the government, neither the Attorney General, the VIPD, much less the gubernatorial office, who was at the time John DeJong. All right? So with all of that transpired 16 years ago, we see a very tragic situation that happened with this police officer. They're quick to get the FBI involved. They're quick to say that they're not going to stop until this crime has been solved and everybody involved has been captured. But it's tragic because at the same time, more than likely, when Shakira Gautier was murdered, individuals involved may have been working for that same department that she was working in. That department behind the VAPD.
Mm-hmm.
Now we see the former commissioner who has served, I believe, 5 or 6 terms as a senator, now trying to become a lieutenant governor. And the tragedy is that people are willing to well, not really overlap everything that's going on, but really give this man a chance to become.
Caller?
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I can't hear.
We lost you, caller. When you said,
you still on?
we lost you when you said,
hello?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Did we lose the call, Jen?
Yeah. His end drop.
Jen, did we lose the call?
Yes, his end drop.
Okay, caller, could you call back? We couldn't hear you. Caller, if you can call back, we didn't hear what you were saying. We lost you. Yeah, but the caller was explaining the former commissioner who is now or was a sitting senator who is now seeking the office to lieutenant governor, who was commissioner at the time of Shakira's losing her life, and the mechanics in that. And if we want change, and like the caller, you could call back, please. I guess what he was trying to allude to was the fact that
Only WSTX.
the amount of
Yeah, he called back. Go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead, caller.
You hear me clear?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just trying to finish up by saying that the individual running for lieutenant governor, the former ex-VIPD police commissioner at the time of the death and murder of Shakira Gautier, he has served at least 5 to 6.
Jen, what happened? I can't hear the caller.
Call cut. Call drop.
How come the call keep on getting
I have no idea.
dropped?
Can't answer that.
Caller, I let's see if your call is going to get dropped again. This is getting interesting. Let's see. Caller calling again. Let's see what happens. You know, we have a system here, so somehow when truth is being spoken, have a tendency of calls getting dropped and things not being heard and all kinds of problems. But truth is a constant. It's not a temporary. So if you stop it today, constantly, it's going to come tomorrow. So caller, do call in. Your call got dropped. Don't know if it's from where you are or if it's the hands that don't ever want truth to come forward that always gives problems, right? But that's all right. That energy has to go away. Yes, I think what the caller was getting at was the former commissioner who's now running for lieutenant governor's post and what their involvement has been in the past 16 years relative to that case that took place under his watch in the police department and the amount of interest that they put in with this case that took place last week, rightfully so. The police officer who lost his life, and what the mechanics and involvements of that looks like, right? But if we're going to show integrity, you had 16 years to have done something other than have people think that you think that you're going to put on the table the results that you want to invent, and the family is going to accept lies. And it's not lies for something I was stolen or something I was damaged. It's lies based on a life that was taken violently. And if any of you who wants to protest against this, I can't do it here. We would show you what those pictures at the scene looks like, if you want to defend things. But who are we dealing with in this in the territory? Who are filling these offices? What are they doing? What do they think life is? They think that they're going to go along life as usual. People said, Mr. Bodyguard, I wouldn't like the job. Too much snakes in the grass. What's occurring in the territory that no one wants to talk about? Integrity is when you come up and speak something that's a truth without sacrificing your moral obligations. And for the past past 16 years, I guess people think that the case had gone away because that's what they like to do in the territory. And they try to put the financial burden on who they think can't afford it. But integrity is a very funny word. And when certain people are going to use integrity, their receipts for the word is going to have to, they're going to have to show it because it's not everyone is a fool. And it's not everyone who buys in to the rhetoric that you present, the things that you think you're achieving, who stealing and who continue to steal outright and who's not paying attention to it for whatever reasons, the kickback, you know, the king forward, the under the table, the envelopes, the personal favors being done in and outside of office, and think that life is not going to catch up with you, right? At some particular point in time, a judgment is coming for your deeds, and the judgment comes in different ways. Come from the least place you expect it, right? But still judgment based on how you're living. And we're living in a territory now, again, with that case that's taking place now with the police officer who lost his life. And again, condolences out to his family and the loved ones who do and recognize who he was. But we need them now to address something that happened in the police station itself, their headquarters, their home. And you're not going to come before people because you figure you have the corrupted connections to tell lies and to sway people based on giving them fish and them participating in whatever questionable behaviors, results, benefits, rewards, profits you might be engaged in. Life is very funny, and you can't threaten everybody because not everybody accepts threats. And in this season, where a respectable member of the community who was trying to do the right thing didn't fail in doing the right thing and held integrity, she lost her life. And you have individuals looking at you telling you lies, like things like cameras didn't work and cameras not working. And these are the things that people are saying. But I give thanks to those officers that did contribute different little points uh, connected to the series of events, what took place in and around. Because if there's one thing, there isn't honor among thieves and murderers. And at some particular point, conscience speaks, and conscience is speaking. And especially in this election year, where a few who was involved with that is running for political office. So we're going to see exactly what integrity looks like. Because it's one thing to know the mechanics of how everything is working, but it makes no sense if you're not going to bring change. Thank you, caller, for calling.
Yes, from the morning, brother Russ. Hear me clear?
Oh, yes.
Hello? Okay.
I can hear you.
By just saying, right, that 16 years has passed since the murder of Shakira Gautier. And today we have the former police commissioner who was there on her murder that night, 16 years ago, a 5 or 6 term senator, now running for lieutenant governor, trying to get in office, trying to get more power, explanation as to what happened tonight. And every time people try to, myself included, I've tried to help the family numerous times. Every time we tried to find out what exactly happened, it fell on deaf ears. And it's interesting because last week, with the tragedy that happened with that police officer. Hello?
You're there.
Hello?
Yeah, you're live.
Hello? You can hear me? Hello? 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 Hello?
Here, right here, right here. Can hear you. Oh, we're having problems. Yeah, and greetings to all of you who are on Miss Brenda Rogers Booker, Miss Kimber Willett, Miss Utiba Cleared, and as hope Jasim is there. Uh, I appreciate you guys. And one of the comments in the chat is right. The 4-year-old that lost their life, and I really don't want to bring it up, but I did because it's not a place where you want to have a conversation going because family is grieving. I don't think anyone wants to ever experience that. So I choose not to bring these things up, and to some degree, I'm regretting even mentioning it now because sometimes people get to a place where they're comfortable dealing with that kind of a tragic loss, and then someone will bring it up and open up the wounds again, and they have to go through the stress and of having to deal with that. So, um, yes, precious and as valuable as our children are. Um, but we're going right back into the fact that we're in an election year. Some of these individuals who are running, we're going to see what integrity looks like. We want to see who thinks that they run the system and how the system runs them, and what those connections are. Um, and to do the necessaries, because look at the territory right now for what it is. Look at those who are running for the governor's seat as well as the lieutenant governor's seat. Look at those who are running for the senator's seat, and look at those who are running for the delegate to the House of Representatives seats. Look at their character. Look at their personalities. I mean, that's for individuals who have free spirits and free minds, because those of you who are not free in your mind, you wouldn't be able to. You try and justify some kind of, there's going to be some kind of justification when you look at individuals and their background. If you look at Fred Gregory and her background, and we're not talking about the good things that they accomplished because we're talking about the questionable behaviors, right, and their experiences that they have not challenged. When you look at the Plaskett and the Potter team, with all the chit and the chatter that's surrounding behaviors with receipts, look at many of them. We want change, right? And is that the change that we want? Well, I guess is who we are, because I don't think anyone, I shouldn't say so, because again, some people are just born to be slaves. And caller, please, in reference to Shakira, if you could just go ahead and call again and don't give up. Once you call, I guess I'll let Jen know that we can hear you, so you could go ahead and finish your thought. If you want to call caller who called earlier in reference to Shakira's case, please do that. But we have work to do, people. There's work to be done. And one of it is to learn the people what you need to know, because an ignorant people can't do anything. And a well-informed people has power, and we need to be well-informed. And it doesn't matter where you are in life. It doesn't matter if you have papers or letters before, after your name. It has nothing to do with that. It's about being well-informed. And you can't think that the people who come before you with letters before the name and after the name and who have certain job and titles, that they have the answer over it more than you. It doesn't work that way. It works that way when you want to control people. That's how it works. And those people keep on giving you fish. Before you could even have the opportunity to fully experience the learning yourself, they'll give it to you. And you will be rewarded, and you'll feel nice, and you'll feel happy that they gave it to you. And that's a control mechanism, because now you're honoring the person because they gave you something that you otherwise could have gotten on your own and competently appreciate what that may have looked like. They remove that ability from you, that opportunity from you, and you don't see it as an opportunity to use that ability, because that's the way the system is designed. So we have to stop being respecter of persons, meaning respecting somebody because they have a title, because you happen to know them. You respect them for the good that they do, the right things that they do. That's what you respect people for, not for titles and all that nonsense. That means nothing other than a title. Um, yeah. So caller, if you have a chance, call back if you have an opportunity to. I don't know, Jenna. We receive any calls yet? Hello. Okay. Yeah, caller. So this is happening organically, and apparently, um, well, it's becoming something of a regular that I don't want to accept. I'm not going to accept this. You're not. You shouldn't accept it either. Um, Caller calls in. He be, he begins receiving problems with his phones. Phone calls gets dropped here. You can't speak truth. That's uh, uncontrollable, because sometimes energies that are in people is used by an entities that don't want the people to be free. So people will voluntarily, involuntarily do things when truth is present. But truth is a constant. It is not a temporary. So you deny truth today, you can't deny it tomorrow, because truth is going to be a constant. It just doesn't change. But somehow people elect to do differently. And here we are, where the caller is trying to call and explain something, and phone calls start to get dropped, and these things start to happen. But for me, that's affirmation, you know, that we're doing the right thing,
You on
and
call.
the progress is being had. Thank you, caller, for calling. Good morning.
Go ahead, caller.
Hi, good morning. So on the Friday, I'm listening to a
Good morning.
family that calls in, and I just want to, I just want to give my piece. My heart breaks for the family and the friends of Shakira Gautier as they search peace and healing. No family should have to carry this heavy burden alone. If you know anything, no matter how small or insignificant it might seem, please step forward and speak up. Your courage could bring the truth to light and help give our loved ones the justice and closure they deserve. This really breaks my heart when I'm listening to pain on the Friday, so I decided to call and just give this little message. Thank you.
But thank you, caller, for doing it. It's a good question. It's a good request, that if anyone who still out there who haven't contributed information, feel free to do so. You can call and leave your number with Jen, um, and someone probably will get out and reach out to you. But it's always good, if you know anyway, to even approach someone who is familiar with the case, because this is a year politics is this time of the year politics is heavy, right? And it just so happened that the individuals who are familiar with these are running for some significant offices. So we want to see what integrity looks like versus politics. And I guess this is going to be an interesting year, because the necessity to respect your police force has to do with how police respect each other too, right? The police officers, anyway. So at some particular point in time, better must come, and truth is a constant. So we're gonna, speak to who was involved appropriately, in the right place at the right time. This is not it. And generally speaking, yes, she lost her life in the St. Croix Police Department, the evidence room. The circumstances around it is no longer questionable. Uh, Giving thanks to the officers who contributed and was able to leave dots and a trail. And the case that occurred 16 years ago occurred under the young, again, like the caller was explaining, with the former commissioner being the individual who's trying to seek office now. They've never voluntarily gotten up to explain anything other than whatever was convenient for the lie. They had all that time to address this and they never did. So, what time are you going to find now to address it, especially now that uh, sadly you're advocating and speaking up for the officer who lost his life last week? Where does your interest and honesty and integrity stops, and where does it begin?
You have another call.
And there are also other cases with officers that's questionable that hasn't been addressed either. So not just one. But we're going to do one at a time.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Paul.
caller, for thank you,
Go ahead.
caller, for calling.
Yeah, morning, Russ. Hello?
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, morning, Russ.
Yeah, go ahead, caller.
Yeah, from my
Jennifer,
point
you
of
got
view here, right?
good morning.
It seems like the cars, especially when the cars are talking about Shakira, willful being cut off. You understand? And for some reason, I was holding a couple times and just couldn't get in. But I personally think, my opinion, is a willful act. That phone line. Okay? It says the company, but I don't think so at all. So just stay strong, Russ, my boy, and keep the fight up, man. Keep the fight up.
Yeah, well, thanks,
One love,
caller.
brother.
Thank you, caller. Yeah. And all that information is needed because from how it's being done, it's hard. It's not hard, but I can't tell how things are materializing other than when we're hearing these things. But caller, I appreciate that. Um, yeah, people, we have work to do, and the time and the clock is ticking, right? Because there's so many distractions. Everybody jumped on the Epstein issue because now it's an excuse for them to get something to gossip and talk about, and to talk about it. Where would they be if not for Epstein and the scourge that they brought into the territory right now, as far as information is concerned? So everybody is more concentrating on who and the what with Epstein when they can't control the who and the what with Epstein. That's the reality. So any little change in the thing that they get relative to the Epstein is only because of a group called the 300 who's neglecting certain things they'll make things seem to the average person that these things are occurring, right? But it's not because they're actually putting the efforts in. The caller just now called and he was referencing um, where his experience was, I guess, with his trying to help the family and knowing about the case on the election that's coming up. And we're waiting to see because it's not a matter of picking on any one candidate, you know. But we're speaking in reference to this because there's an issue relative to land and the issue with Whistling Key that sat here and quietly this lieutenant governor whose office is under never produced any documents to the contrary, which he would know because he's supposed to be an attorney. That don't mean that they're honest, right? What the circumstances of the case still is. And then Stacey Plaskett is quick to explain that the money she got from Mr. Bloomberg, who is a supporter of many different things, including maybe the station, who contributed to her campaign. And the reason why people are able to know that is because she made that known, but they have the other characters like Roach and Francis who have questionable funds from various actors, including Epstein, but they never announced it, right? All these things are being said. And Stacey Plaskett is also talking about the fact of them signing over Whistling Key. Well, Miss Plaskett, you know, I think you have to stop being a politician in particular under certain circumstances in front of certain people when it comes to the national parks and land and your involvement in that whole transaction. And politics, as usual, now you're complaining and criticizing those who were involved and who advocated for it back and forth. Well, it is still a case that the judicial system in the US is trying to railroad because they can't allow, they're trying their best not to allow for a people, especially a copper colored people, to know what the law is and to apply it according to the remedies that's allowed, the rule of law, when it comes to land that Anglo Saxons somehow in their head think that they have a right to control and own. And at the same time, to marginalize us through the neo-colonialists who are at best carrying out the works of massa. So now we have all of this back and forth and the backstabbing because it's politics as usual, and it's going to get dirtier for aspirants and it's going to get dirtier from incumbents because this is the year. I don't like to talk that way anyway, but truths are going to be spoken about what people have in their closets because at best, many people before you who want to give you and impress you, trying to make themselves look like they are honest people. I could tell you a lot of them are liars, but they want to come before you presenting an honest face or an honest body of people, you know, that's not necessarily together, but they're only held together by lies and deception and what one person wants to convince the other person is going to benefit them if they, you know, don't address truths in the room and just leave it on the push it on the side. So this whole political season, again, is up to you, the individuals, to know who is lying to you, and you know when people are lying to you and which lies you're going to accept, which ones you're not going to bother, and which lies you're going to make excuses for, because majority of them are going to come up there and tell you lies. Majority of them. You want to give a percentage? Let's say 80%. If 10 people came, 8 of them telling you lies. Promise you things they can't keep. Knowing they can't deliver. But we need change, right? One thing would change, and people have to understand, it's better not to change something if you're not going to change it correctly. Because the majority of the time when you think it's a little better, it's actually worse. So sometimes you have to leave things. But the territory needs changes. And the way you're going to get the changes in the minds of people who have been indoctrinated into thinking so by being exposed to years of documentation and media, in your history books, in your news, both printed and visible, on the social platforms now, you're conditioned to think a certain way and you don't realize it because everything you do, you ask whether or not Massa gave you permission to do it or if it's Massa approved. And you don't realize it. So you're experiencing the good, but where are we going to in the territory in 2026 when it's election season? I'm even forgetting to cover some things, but it's all right. This is organic. It's not practice and it's not, how you say, it's not a skit like some people love. They love skits. Yeah, people. So when we could talk about who do what with Epstein, we could talk about what the mechanics look like, and at the end of the day, at best, it's allowing people to have a platform to speak on events that they themselves never even investigated, but they're just explaining from reports that were being had and connecting reports and coming before you had not never done their searches nor the researches themselves. And in the process, it gives people something to talk about that looks like it's legit, but I'm the first one to tell you people that what's happening with Epstein and the Epstein case, they cannot affect. Talk about it from now until kingdom come. Call out people name who was involved, who wasn't involved, who did what. At the end of the day, you can't control it. Your spirit is not right. And you're just going to smile because now you're just going to talk and bring something into reality. Now it was in the back closets. Now it's brought up front. And they're happy because now you're going to eat, breathe, all who was involved without even doing anything other than the limited time you have to complain. And when you finish talking about what and who did what with Epstein back and forth, and who's a Republican from who's a Democrat, the colonizer is smiling. The Luciferians and the Satanists, they're going back and forth, and the devil is smiling because they're here participating in things and focusing on things that's not going to liberate you. And when you finish, you still have to answer to who? A structured system that doesn't involve you, really, even when you try to justify it. Like when people, and it's a sad thing, talk about the U.S. Constitution, and in particular Article 14, and they want to talk about what that offers from a point of ignorance of what the documents say, because they figure that the 14th Amendment, I should say, rather, was done specifically to allow a particular type of people to get involved in government. And the 13th through the 15th doesn't speak to anything other than putting people under another status that you still don't see. And when we're a territory and you do not comprehend, those of you who say you're professors at the university, if you do this and you say you are, questionable, right? And I can't prove it because you're not here in front of me to accept nor deny. Now, when you're going to advocate for a new constitution or for a sixth constitutional convention, and the receipts are there where they're admitting that the document was never rejected, the document, the fifth, that was produced by the fifth, our final constitution, they're going ahead now as if it didn't, even though they're admitting that it exists. I'm not making this up. So we're so lawless and so insular from the point of where the justice was coming from, not understanding Anglo-Saxon language, culture, music, nor written, nor law, that in 2026, clear as daylight, a sixth constitutional convention is lawless, even from its makeup, even from its populating. And they know that, but we are a lawless territory, a lawless colony, doing the bidding for master, and master is smiling because they're insisting, because they're the ones in charge, sitting in those seats, the whole cabal, the whole clique, the whole friend up, the whole status quo, who is actually interpreting exactly what the colonizer wants. You can't change and make these things up. But they want to violate the law. We're so lawless that they still want to watch competent people and say that they have a lawful sixth constitutional convention, even because they friended up and pull unlawful strings with their legislative fellow former senators back and forth for them to move the sabotaging process forward by giving them monies that they still can't account for because they keep on delaying. Now, truth is a constant, right? And they want to tell you that they're going to convene a sixth and they're going to bring forward a document. We're lawless in the place. And they figure, well, the common person doesn't know how lawless they are. And when they do, they're not going to, they don't worry about it because it's election time. We're just going to give them a free piece of chicken wing, a piece of fried fish, a little drink, a rum, or somebody going to get a little walk up and a wine up here, back and forth. This is what it's all about. But we're not talking about liberating and keeping ourselves free because they don't have the receipts to prove that you have a liberated spirit, which means the receipts have to be there in 2026. And it's not about going to the news network to let them know what people are doing back and forth, because it's very limited the amount of stuff that people are doing locally and to what degree. All inside the colonial cage, nothing outside the colonial cage. And they figure that they were accomplishing something great. Well, they're limited that way. And the only strength that they have is to come against truth when truth is bringing liberation. That's and it doesn't matter what format they meet liberation under. There's always going to be an excuse because it's just that liberation, freeing. And we're sitting down now because we need change, and we're voting registration, and we're going to register people to vote, and we're going to encourage people to come out and vote, because if you don't vote, well, if you don't control the 50 people or the 500 people now, you're going to control based on a questionable election system that's still failing, and it's going to fail because, again, people don't understand jurisdiction. Even the best of listening to I'm seeing cases filed back and forth, and they still don't get jurisdiction. And when you don't get the jurisdiction issue,
Top of the hour.
no matter what you say, no matter what you say, you're not going to be successful at doing any real change in the territory. And people, we are already at the top of the hour. I apologize for the late start and all the mechanics that we're having, but know to expect that when Russ come on, because I speak truth and it's going to be a constant. It's not a temporary. I'm also not a respecter of persons. I can't be bought and I can't be sold. Know that for a fact. Just know that, right? I'm not here to say what you're doing. I'm just here to do. And I would always ask you and remind you, people, it's very important. And those of you who know how to do, figure this out and know what this means, right? Never give up and never surrender your rights to be given or to purchase a privilege. Know what that means. And also, our ancestors always tell us to walk good, people in favor. See you guys next week. Walk good.